Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. Hope you've had some luck if you're doing any of the seasonal polls. And I know there's a lot to grind out this week, so hopefully you guys are chugging along and getting close to being done with that. Today I wanted to talk about, for the first time ever, hitting rank 100, within rank 100 in Arena and completing the week underneath that rank. This is actually the first time I'm under 1,000 and, finishing out the week under 1,000. So I kind of just wanted to talk about my experience with that, my story and sort of what are my takeaways from having gone through that experience. So about me in terms of Arena, I usually just do my 5 Arena matches every week, like every day. And, I usually try to rank within, top 5,000 usually, because when you hit 5,000, you get a pretty decent Viz bonus for that. So I can usually do that without having to waste any potions. So what I usually do is whenever I know that I have like the large bonuses for the units and the vision cards, I usually try to take it a little bit seriously and try to attack, whoever I know I'm going to do good against. So I usually try to bring it, if not to 5,000, at least to 10,000 if I'm kind of tired that week. So I've never really tried to go that much higher than like 5,000. I have placed under 1,000, but I just haven't finished under 1,000 for the week. So I've never really wanted to push that far, just because I don't know. I feel like it takes time and sort of some commitment. And also I know that it takes up potions, so I'm kind of just wanting to save my potions for when I know I'm gonna go all the way through it and complete it. And then there's one other thing where it's just I kind of always thought that I needed good builds and, the right weapons and the right VCs and everything. But something I've learned this week is I kind of didn't really need that. So let's kind of go into that and talk about this a little bit. So one thing that I sort of realized is that if you just have a few different elemental teams, you can do this pretty easily. It just seems like countering elements is just super easy to do. I sort of expected there to be a lot of light and dark teams, which are technically, I guess they can be countered by each other, but unless you have a good light or dark team, you're not going to really be countering necessarily. But I actually found that this week, it was actually pretty easy to find teams that I could just counter. And sort of one quick takeaway that I had from that is that the mono element teams are probably not as good as they seem to be. I know they are good, but the fact that they can easily be countered kind of just, makes it a little bit too, it just has too big of a weakness, I think, right? And so I think that's kind of, it's not really an issue, but I feel like it kind of makes Arena a little bit too predictable, I don't want to use the word boring, but it just makes it so simple, right? It's really straightforward to just attack what team you counter. So I found that I was basically doing that a lot. I was just going for the teams that were weak to me. And so sort of what I figured out is if I just use 2 or 3 good solid different element teams, I had no problem just finding the team that it was weak against me and just going for that, maintaining my streak and making sure I was winning the higher ranked, the ones that would give you a higher rating, like a 1.5 rating, for example, right? And because of that, that part of it felt kind of grindy, and I didn't really necessarily enjoy having to do that. And honestly, I try to watch my arena battles just so I can see what happens, but I found myself repeatedly hitting the same teams, and I kind of just skipped through the battles, because I'm basically fighting the same team. The battles didn't go exactly the same way, but you pretty much know whether you're going to win or lose after a while. So that to me was kind of a little not as fun as having to grind all that stuff out and having to use 20 potions per day, basically. So what ended up happening is, I think this was last week. So by last Wednesday or Thursday, I realized I'm actually doing pretty decent with the rank so far. So I decided, you know what, let me just go ahead and push and use all the potions in one day and sort of just see how far I can get, try to break the top 100. And sort of by the end of the week, I did end up doing that. So to me, like, the whole skipping and grinding through it wasn't really that fun. What did end up being fun though, like for the first couple of days, I was just like, what am I doing here? Like, this is kind of like, feels pointless. But, you know, after like day 3 or 4 of doing that, I was just like, you know what? I see myself moving up. I see myself having like a pretty like good time just like countering teams. I set up my 3 different teams. So basically I had a fire team, a lightning team, and an ice team, right? So my fire team was Setcha, Kingmont, and Minwoo. My lightning team was Ibarra, Cloud, and 9S. And then I had an ice team to counter wind. So that was Barrett, King Curry, and Valentine Solir. So my ice team was kind of the weakest. But honestly, I think the reason for that was really, I mean, granted, I didn't have any double cost units here. But I think the real reason for that is because just the wind team is actually really strong in terms of evasion, in terms of defense, and in terms of doing a pretty good amount of damage. So I just think the wind team was really good. The fire team, they were boosted, so it wasn't really that much of a problem. And my lightning team, it was Cloud and Ibarra, so double cost unit and Cloud. So really didn't have that much of a problem with that. So I don't know. I think I must have been lucky this week because since fire was the boosted element, there were some water teams. So there was a pretty decent amount of water teams. So my lightning team took care of that. Since wind is actually doing really good in the meta right now, that kind of made a lot of ice teams appear. So that made it a lot easier to use fire. And then the ice team is just, okay, you know what? I have no other options but to attack wind. So I'll just use my ice team. So that was something I definitely did notice on the journey to rank 100. So yeah, basically, I think that was sort of the fun part. Is by the time I kind of got into the groove of it, just sort of seeing my rank get better and better, and then once I started getting close to 100, I was like, oh no, am I gonna make it? It was like Saturday and Sunday. Am I gonna make it? Am I gonna have to spend Viz? Am I gonna, And I was like, oh, at that point I was getting excited because the stakes were like higher. I didn't want to lose as much. Of course, I did end up losing some. I kind of find out that the streak is pretty useful to have, but it wasn't really like super crucial to continue the streak. Like I did end up breaking my streak on Sunday, but then I sort of found that even if you attack like the higher person, that's like the rate 1.5, I kind of found that if you had the bonus units, so in my case it was fire, that that would actually just give you more points than attacking the highest rate. So I felt pretty comfortable in just attacking the ice teams with my fire team, and that kind of just made it easy to kind of get my points and sort of break top 100. And then once I broke top 100 on Sunday, I was kind of like it was kind of like really fun to just kind of sit there and just camp on my spot and make sure I defended it. And so I kind of waited. I kind of stayed up until refresh basically, and I kind of just made sure that I would stay under rank 100. So that, I think that little part of it was actually pretty fun in and of itself. So one of the things I learned off of that was that since my fire team was doing so well, it wasn't necessarily because they were boosted or anything. It was because it was the bonuses, right? The unit and the vision card bonuses. So I think it would be fun to, if you're kind of thinking of doing an arena run like that, it would be fun to have like different teams. So for example, I saw Skahal was boosted, and I saw like the Ramu VC was boosted. So I kind of just threw on the Ramu VC, but 2 of my team on the lightning team were physical attackers. So the Ramu VC wasn't as good, especially since I had the Ibarra card on Ibarra. So I kind of had to throw the Ramu. I forgot if I threw that on Cloud or 9S, but it kind of wasn't the most optimal card. So I kind of think that it's sort of worth having a lot of those like other units built up, because I feel like that kind of makes it a little more fun being able to do it with like the off team, more so than the main bonus team. So yeah, so basically what I walked away from that with were a couple of different things. Is number one, I sort of like now am feeling justified in not having to pull all the latest units, because I kind of know that having like one sort of main team, or like let's just say I have two main teams, right? Fire and lightning, right? I know my earth team is actually pretty good, so it's definitely good to have that too. But you know, just having like 2 or 3 pretty good teams, I think is enough to kind of get you through most of arena and sort of just rank you up, just because you'll be able to just hit your elemental weakness pretty much most battles. I mean, there was times where I did end up using a water team, but I just couldn't put together a good water team. I don't know. My water units are not maxed out fully. I have Titus and I think I have Lara Croft, but I feel like I need more than that. So another thing I realized is I did end up spending, I did 2 refreshes with Visure at the end, but I kind of said, I think it was like 50 Visure or something like that. But I kind of said, you know what, if I get myself to the top 100, then I'm getting like 1200 Visure. So it would have been like a 400 Visure difference from the next lower rank. So I was like, you know what, it's worth it to do a couple of refreshes, because the sum total of the total Visure I'm ending up with is better than what I would have had if I didn't spend, right? So sort of the last thing I sort of got from this is, you know, I don't really feel as pressured to build equipment and to grind out, like, you know, you have to get like 3 different +5s. I generally don't do that. I try to at least get the 1 +5, maybe a second copy of recipes. But considering how I wasn't even like prepared to do this week, and I basically just countered everybody, and I had like no problem doing that. I sort of feel alleviated, right? So I feel like I don't have to keep constantly farming all day and constantly building the weapons and, you know, getting books and all this crazy stuff. If this is like the hardest content in the game, like the stuff that you need the best equipment for, I mean, I guess technically guild battle would be the max PvP level, right? But I'm kind of feeling like, since I was able to get this far without really being like super prepared for this, I feel like I'm like reconsidering all this time that I'm spending farming equipment and, you know, spending time just sort of grinding out in this game. A lot of times I feel like I spend more time grinding the game than actually, you know, for example, the nightmare quests, those should be fun to play, but I usually don't enjoy doing them because, like, for example, this week there's 3 things that I need to farm. So it's just like, I need to get my farming in, and then I kind of just don't leave time for myself to do the nightmare quest. So I think now that I've kind of had this experience, I feel like that, you know, grinding out the weapons isn't as important, and maybe I should focus on content that's, you know, fun and good to strategize for and stuff like that, more so than, oh, let me try to get all the best weapons and VCs and units and everything, so I could just have an easy time just, you know, plowing through and just running over my opponents. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about that. It started off being a little bit grindy, but I think at the end of the week, it ended up being pretty rewarding, let's just say. So I in that sense, it was pretty fun. So I'm looking forward to, at some point in the future, just kind of doing it again and sort of just getting rewarded by getting my 1200 viz, the weekly viz for getting top 100. And, you know, I'm probably gonna try not to worry so much about grinding out like +5 weapons and stuff like that, because I kind of just feel like I don't really need it all that much anymore. So yeah, I'm kind of happy about that. Anyway, that was kind of my rant, my story about that, my takeaways. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.